everyone. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. Grant writing is one of those invaluable skills that I think everyone should know. I like to call it the balancing your checkbook of academia, right? It's something that everybody should do, but probably doesn't do it enough, right? So I wanted to just welcome everyone to today's workshop. I wanted to also let you know that this workshop is designed to help faculty and staff better understand the grant writing process, to help you prepare strong proposals, and also help you access institutional resources for grant writing success. We have tons of resources here at DSU, not just for students, but for faculty and staff as well, especially when it comes to the area of grant writing. So let's jump in. What are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to start with why grant funding. I find that, just like students in your classrooms, if they don't know why they're doing something, they're going to tend to be less engaged. So grant funding is essential for not only career advancement, but also just your general professional development. It enables you to conduct impactful research, mentor students or other junior faculty or junior staff members, and it also helps you contribute to your institution's mission. Grants also open doors to new opportunities and professional networks that you may not have had before. I was just in a Middle States meeting yesterday, and they were talking about the benefits of being a peer evaluator. I know, although Middle States is not the same as grant writing, that professional network and extending it by opening yourself up to new experiences will be valuable for you as you progress throughout your academic career, whether you're a grant writing novice or a grant writing expert. So why do we write grants? One, it supports innovations in research and in teaching. It enhances your professional development. It builds our institutional reputation and profile. As you may know, we currently have the strong research being conducted as we push towards R1. So that R1 status comes with certain criteria, parameters that we have to meet. The grant profile is one of those criteria. So, work that you do that contributes to establishing a higher overall institutional reputation and research profile benefits not only you, but our community at large. Also, your work and your research provides resources for students and community support. Also, for our faculty, it provides you with some release time, and is also a great asset for your tenure and promotion package. So this is the time of year that I get a lot of requests from faculty for letters of support for their pursuit of tenure and promotion. I just did 2 this week. So knowing, what grants you've been working on is helpful, as I support your ambitions for promotion and tenure and write those letters of support. So there are many types of grants out there, and it's important that you understand the grant landscape. So there are many sources of grant funding. Internal grants like the IAGR pilot grant are great places to start. However, all grants, whether they're internal or external, have some common elements, which we're going to cover in a little bit more detail. So types of grants, they can be state or local government grants or federal grants. Some common federal grants come from institutions such as NIH, the National Institutes of Health, or NSF, the National Science Foundation. There's also private funders that are not tied to any state or local or federal government. They can be for-profit or not-for-profit. Also, there's institutional or internal grants as well. So the key components of each grant are going to be the abstract, the specific aims, the research description, the budget, and any supporting documentation. So before you apply, it's best to, one, understand the grant landscape, but also check to make sure that you meet any eligibility or other requirements that that particular grant is asking for. So before applying to that grant, make sure you understand what's required of you. Most grants are going to require a mentor, community partner, and an ethical review. Also, budget restrictions are common, so make sure you plan them carefully. Make sure that you meet the criteria to apply. Whether you're a postdoc or an early stage investigator or a faculty member, you're on a tenure or non-tenure track, make sure that you're evaluating who can apply. And if you fall into that applicant approval base, right, then you can move on to looking at those common requirements like a mentoring plan, a community engagement plan, IRB approval, and the budget restrictions. Also be mindful that some grants want to know how you're going to sustain whatever research or program you're putting on once the grant cycle ends. So is there an assumption that institutional funds will cover the grant funds once the grant period ends? So just some things to consider before applying. So now we're going to move on past that kind of general overview of saying, hey, do I meet the criteria? And move on to how we create a strong grant proposal. So a strong proposal clearly explains your project's significance, the innovation, and the methods of your exploration. Be concise and persuasive, and be sure to outline how you'll share results, and also seek future funding. So it's important to know that this is not a beginning or an end, even though the grant period or cycle may begin or end, but think about it as a longer journey through the professional phase of your career. About this is just one timeline or one pinpoint, right? There should and could be others in the future, right? So for a strong proposal, I like to do these in the order that they're listed on the screen. By no means do you have to do that. I just am a little bit of a type A personality, so I like to do them in order. But you should do them in whatever order makes sense for you. I always start with the abstract, which is about 300 words. Some grants may want 250. So just be mindful of checking those. These are just some general rules of thumb. So your abstract's about 300 words, a specific aims section that should be about a page. And then your research description should be about 4 pages or so, and it should go over significance, innovation, and approach to your research or program that you're trying to get funding for. And then also make sure that you have a plan for dissemination of funds and future funding plans for this grant. There are some grants that will allow you to create your own budget template, but most times you're also going to find that they're going to give you a template for budgeting purposes. Make sure you stick to that template and clearly articulate what monies are going where and how they're going to be spent. Because as the principal investigator of the grant, you're going to be responsible for, answering to those fiduciary responsibilities. So when we talk about budget, there are, it's always best to budget carefully. Just how you may make a family budget monthly for you and your family to track your own spending, it's important that you are preparing a budget carefully for your grant. Be sure to only include allowable expenses and justify each item. So for example, if you're talking about personnel and you're giving a stipend or extra funding support or whatever the case may be, if you're giving X amount of dollars to someone, make sure you're justifying that. The same thing with supplies. This could be lab equipment, for example, right? Travel to conferences to present the research or any services that you may need. Be sure to justify each allowable expense. And then on the flip side, make sure that you avoid any indirect costs if they're not permitted, or any unrelated expenses. Make sure that, you're not, spending money on things that are not permissible through the grant. And be sure, of course, to always defer to the templates provided by the funding agency. If I've come across some grants where they don't have a template, I always ask first. And if they, say you're allowed to use your own, do so. But make sure if it's provided that you use that. So after you've worked through if you're eligible and you started drafting, it's important that you keep yourself on track. Typically, when I'm going through writing a grant, I will block off time for myself for reading and writing, and then also for editing, and then double checking submission guidelines, and then follow up if need be. I put that on my calendar to make sure that I don't miss a deadline, but also that I'm not scheduling meetings when I should be reading or writing. We're all busy, life happens, and the more you can stay organized and on top of your responsibilities when it comes to that particular grant you're applying for, the better off that you will be. So be sure to follow the submission guidelines very closely. Proposals are judged on things like scientific merit, feasibility, and impact. So strong mentorship and strong community engagement are often key criteria that folks may overlook because they don't think of that as falling into that standard, abstract aims budget, flow, if you will. So make sure that you are thinking about your letter of intent, which is what you write prior to the full proposal, making sure you be mindful of the proposal deadline, how long the period of review is. So for example, if a grant proposal is due in August, how long do the reviewers have to consider your proposal? And then when is the notification and award timeline? So when's the paper due? How long is it going to take them to grade? And what grade, when will you know your grade, right? If we want to use a classroom example. And then the review criteria. Be sure that I like to create a checklist to make sure that I've met all of the criteria that are outlined in the notification of application, meaning like when they notify you that a particular application, a particular grant is open, I make sure that I, download that information, create a checklist from it, and go over that periodically throughout my drafting time to make sure I'm on track. So let's say you're eligible, you found the grant, you've written your letter of intent, you've submitted the proposal, and now you've earned that grant funding. So what are some expectations that the granting institution may have of you post-award, meaning after they've provided you the funding? They're gonna generally have two expectations: a reporting expectation and a professional development expectation. The reporting expectation could cover things like progress reports. So where are you at now versus when you started? What progress have you made? Financial reports. Are you on budget? How much of your budget have you spent? Are you on track to sustain the funding after the grant has closed? And also final reports and dissemination. So once let's say your grant is 3 years, once that 3 years comes to a close, you'll draft a final report and disseminate that. What are the expectations around who gets that report? How long after the grant concludes is it due? And, what does the future hold for any expectations they may have for you? Also, professional development. What kind of networking and mentorship requirements or opportunities happen after the award is provided? Are you going to be giving some grant writing workshops or participating in them? Are there annual retreats or annual meetings, right, that you may go to, and you may be expected to report out at those places? So winning your grant is just the beginning. You'll need to participate in professional development, submit regular reports, and share your findings with the community. So just make sure you're prepared to meet those post-award expectations. So there are resources out there to help you. I know sometimes grant writing can be frustrating. I always equate it to an author trying to publish a book and they're sending out their manuscript to publishers, right? And they get defeated every time. They may get a rejection letter. But I promise you nothing beats the feeling of getting that award letter. So take advantage of institutional resources like the research office and the research corps, the professors assigned to those research corps. For example, Dr. Wensian. There are also external databases and professional organizations that can also help you find some funding. So there's both external supports and institutional supports that you may find helpful when you're, going through, the grant aspiration process, if you will. So what are some tips for success? Successful grant writers start early. They often collaborate with others, whether that be co-investigators or co-writers. They follow all the guidelines. They ask for feedback early and often, and they persist despite any setbacks. Rejection is common. Learn from it and try again. I've had some grants accepted. I've had some grants rejected. I've also, so I know what that feeling is like, but I don't want you to give up. I want you to be persistent, be gritty, resilient, and stick with, your passions. So what supports and services do we have here? I did drop this presentation in the chat for you all to access. There is several resources that we have here at the institution that can help you. There is a faculty research website, meaning our institutional website. There's also a faculty research committee. The Office of Sponsored Programs has a website. There's also a whole team that makes up the Office of Sponsored Programs. And then there's also workshops that are presented by the Office of Sponsored Programs. And then also there's a reference guides and forms library on their website as well that may be helpful. And as you, work towards finding grants and going through that process of writing and revising and submitting them. So as we continue to think about supports, and of course, as you can click any of those underlined words, they're hyperlinked to the resources that are described in the box. So you'll be able to take those with you as you move along. So as you develop your research, there are some pre-award services and post-award services that I would encourage you to take advantage of. So pre-award services, seek some help when searching for grant opportunities. Sometimes there's so many that can be overwhelming, or there's not enough and you're not sure where to go. Also, get help understanding the application process and requirements. Make sure that you're, talking it through. You may have your own professional mentor that you may want to ask for guidance from. Get help budgeting and drafting justifications, double check the math, right? The arithmetic. Often these are done in Excel, so hopefully, you won't have those arithmetic errors, but that auto sum feature is great. But just make sure you're, double checking the math, make sure everything lines up. Also, let your folks know, hey, I'm writing this grant. You may need some letters of support. And talking to your colleagues about what you're working on is helpful, because then when you ask for that letter of support, they already know kind of what you're working towards, right? Also, you can apply through the Office of Sponsored Programs and the DSU Foundation. So the DSU Foundation is separate, right, from OSP and other divisions at the university. So keep that in mind. Also, OSP can help you with PAFs. It can help you with requisitions, any contracts that you need. They also assist new principal investigators with grant startup procedures. Also, they can also help you troubleshoot any grant-related issues or transactions that you may experience. So don't forget to utilize your resources. I tell students all the time, these resources are here, and if you don't lose them, it's almost like you're losing money, right? Because these services are provided. So please, take advantage of the support and mentorship from your colleagues and folks who have been successful in the past. So some key takeaways. Seek mentorship. Do not be afraid. Everybody needs a buddy. Do not be afraid to reach out to folks, even if it's folks you don't know. Get a conversation started. Utilize your institutional resources, both from OSP and beyond. And be sure to collaborate with others. Share the workload, right? You may want to ask someone to write the grant with you. And I also want to just speak briefly on a recommendation I have in light of the state of higher education and the current political situation as it relates to our federal government. So, as you all, I'm sure, have seen in the news, there's an attack on DEI, or yeah, maybe attack was too soon. There's rumblings, right, around DEI as it relates to federal funds. I would caution you against putting DEI or the words DEI directly in a proposal or in a title. However, you can still work on some DEI initiatives without calling them that. So we're going to need to be a little creative about the words that we use to make sure it doesn't negatively impact your ability to be successful with a particular grant because of particular language that may be a trigger word for the federal government at this time. I know some things are might feel like you're in a little bit of limbo or purgatory as it relates to federal funds, just with the state of the federal government currently, and some executive orders. But so far we're holding strong with the grant funds we do have, and we want to continue to be successful. So just a little friendly advice when it comes to that. I shouldn't have to give that advice, but unfortunately that's kind of the state where we find ourselves in terms of federal grants. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen today. Grant writing is a journey, and I know you all will be successful with the right support and approach. And I'm here to help you achieve that goal, if you have a goal of grant writing and you want to be successful in that pursuit, I'm definitely here to help you. I want to just take a few minutes to open it up for any questions, comments, concerns as we move forward. And if we have some time, I'd be happy to pull up the OSP website and kind of give you an overview of what that looks like. So I'll turn it over to you all. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions. If not, I'll pull up OSP's website and do a little overview at this time.
Can I just jump in?
Please.
And say thank you for putting this opportunity out there for all of us, because it is important for us to know, especially in this day and time, how to process and request proposals and grants and so forth. And I will just share, being a previous OSP employee, it is a process. Kuali is the system that you will upload your proposals to, and that in itself is a process. Anyone that is considering doing a proposal, please take heed to Dr. A's advice, and that is to reach out to OSP if you have questions about proposals or writing grants. And there also is a department called the Research Development Services Team, run by Ms. Brittany Madej, who's the director of that department. And they work hand in hand with OSP pre-proposal service. So when you need assistance in writing the proposal, how that process works before it even gets uploaded to Kuali, with your IPF, if you need help with her breaking it down or overviewing what an IPF is, because there are specifics that you do have to check off and mark off. And whether you're federally funded versus just state funded, if it's federally funded, you are going to need an SAI number. I used to process that, which is a state application identifier. Your grant funds will not be processed if you don't have it. So definitely get those little ins and outs, or, if you want to ask questions or see what is missing or overview your budget with the budget analyst and OSP, it's better to do that at the beginning than to get into the process and have to go backwards. And they only do certain requests once a month, just so you know. So better safe than sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those looking for, or maybe not know what Kuali is, if you go to the sponsored programs website, which I'll drop in the chat, it's also in the presentation, you'll be able to find a link directly to Kuali here, and obviously find contact information, what OSP does, what it doesn't do. And this is the reference guide I was talking about. It'll have, KPIs, the strategic plan there. It'll have all the forms, all the documents that you may or may not need to fill out depending on which, award you are granted. So lots of details. Ask questions early and often to make sure you're on track when it comes to your process for your particular grant. Thank you, Ms. Fennell. I appreciate you.
Thanks. I appreciate you right back.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Anyone want to share what they're currently working on?
Hi there.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I just wanted to share, when you say working on, I know with Integrated Academic Support Services, we had looked at possibly, based on Mr. Blank's experience with yourself at Wesley, how we could get new furniture for our centers, and trying to look for look for avenues. And we did try to look for grants. Some of our opportunities we saw were more corporate centered. So
Mhm.
they did not fit our needs. So some of the suggestions that you made in the PowerPoint, we kind of went through, you know, in the sense that, was what we wanted to do applicable to the grant that was being um, formed, and, we didn't. Um, so we appreciate the presentation, because as we move forward, we'll continue to see what we can find.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend too. I know that you and Justin are probably part of listservs for like CRLA,
Yep.
and I would definitely reach out to them, say, hey, we're looking for new furniture for centers. Has anyone had any success with any grants for this type of goal, or just grants in general?
Right.
So reach out to your colleagues in your professional network, see how
Mhm.
they've been successful for. I know one big um, um, steel case is one grant that's particularly for furniture in higher ed. They have a corporate division too, but there's a higher ed division as well. So the steel case grant is a lot surrounding like flexible and modern type seating. So things that run on wheels, things that be connected to a TV, things that have built-in whiteboards, things like that. So that might be an ideal um,
Look.
place to start. I would also reach out maybe to, um, OSP and the DSU Foundation. If you may have already done that, but
Yeah.
Steelcase, and definitely reaching out to CRLA, and the other professional, tutoring organizations to see if they've had any luck with grants, and get information from them about, um, what grants they've maybe got in the past, or what they've applied to in the past, to get an idea of what opportunities may be out there.
When you said steel case, is it the spelling that I think it's going to be? STEELE?
Yep.
Um,
CASE. Yep. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And the Steelcase grant, the last time I wrote one, they were working with Corporate Interiors. I don't want you to get freaked out by the name. That's just the name of the furniture company that supplies furniture. Um,
Okay.
So, but yeah, Steelcase was a grant. I've written that one before, so if that's open and still available, if you need some help or want me to review it, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that.
Will
I
do.
will also post it, a reach out to my professional networks too to see what other um resources might be available, or what other funding may be available. And I can send you and Justin a link of, what I come up with, as other potential opportunities to search through. Yeah.
Great,
Sometimes
thank you.
finding it's the hardest part.
Yeah, for some reason, CRLA, reaching out through the listserv, that did not occur to me. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey, we're gonna use all our friends. You gotta
You know,
use.
I usually throw things out at them. Sometimes I do, but for this particular grant, I just didn't think of it. So that's why you say something and
Yep.
you pick everybody's brain.
1000%. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation. These types of questions and discussions is absolutely, sometimes you learn from experience, or somebody might think of something you might not have. But yeah, definitely let me know how it goes. Keep me posted, and I'll definitely start reaching out, putting some feelers out, and see what I can find for you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Um, Anyone else? Questions, comments, concerns? Um, what you're um looking into? Anyone have what I call a magic wand? If you can get an unlimited number of funds, what would be the first thing you would do with it? If you had a magic wand grant, what would you do with it? Um, Sometimes it's good to think about those higher aspirations, uh, and steps to build them. If you could get a grant to do anything, what is the grant of your dreams? Dr. Poe?
Yeah, ideally the goal is try to get federal TRIO programs back on this campus. We need to be able to have student support services, McNair, Outward Bound, all the different programs that serve kind of like as a feeder system, specifically for the population that we're trying to work with. If we're looking at low income, first generation, students with disabilities, what people might call DEI or whatever, right? But those programs are specifically there to help certain population. I think it's important that we have those programs in place, regardless of what people think. I don't see nothing wrong with trying to help people do better with their life. So we want to make sure that we have those programs in place that help people with their academic support and ensure that they're able to be successful in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Ms. Cortez and IASS, and then Dr. Poe mentioned the TRIO grant, getting that back. We did have that at one time, for sure. We also serve a homeless population of students. I know those students are supported through House Bill 123, but just the other supports that may be needed for that population. We have Dreamers on campus, right? First-gen college students, military students, transfer students. As we push a diverse student population to, expand the workforce in those areas. For example, like male teachers, African-American male teachers, right? Something, a population of educators we want to grow, right? Yeah, thank you, Dr. Poe. Anyone else? If you got the proverbial Publishers Clearinghouse check, what would you do with it?
Hello, I would probably, I feel like there's so many things. I feel like it would first start with some type of engagement activity with the students.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my department, they're always saying how we need more money. So this is like a thank you to them for pushing us. And now we can celebrate with the funds that we've gotten. So I would think of some type of engagement activity to involve everyone, the faculty and staff, including the students.
Okay, yeah, bring everyone together as a campus, for sure, for sure. All right, well, thank you all so much. Does anyone else have anything else before we wrap up? Dr. Poe?
I'm not trying to be greedy.
No, please,
Yeah.
please jump in.
But I know that in the past we used to have, boot camp types of things like math boot camps or any type of those transitional programs, because we know, especially within STEM, we have a lot of students who are coming in underprepared. So if we could have some programming specifically towards those students so that building math skills, jumping into Bio 101 is different than biology inside high school. I remember biology and chemistry in high school. I just remember hanging out with friends, not really paying attention, and then just filling out a form and just turning it in. Whereas now, when you're jumping into a university setting, everybody they are actually scientists who actually know this stuff and expect people to know this stuff. So it's a different world for a lot of our students transitioning into those programs. So any type of summer boot camp or any type of training that we can kind of have for our students to prepare them as they enter in their first year here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with TRIO being, the state of TRIO being questionable, right?
Removed. It's removed.
Given the current administration, I think we can still support some of those initiatives by looking for private funding, and foundational funding, internal funding, right? As opposed to federal funds. But yeah, something like TRIO. I love the sound of math boot camp because sometimes students forget that, especially our STEM majors, they're coming in at calculus, right? So if you're only scoring on your math placement for college algebra, it's not going to cut it for our STEM majors, right? So yeah, for sure. Things I think about a lot recently are AI literacy and financial literacy programming. I see Dr. Fowler's hand. Go ahead, sir.
You just kind of stole my thunder a little
Oh.
bit, because
Sorry.
but certainly along the same line, I would love to see more outreach in, the K through 12 setting. Maybe have a presence inside of those settings, and giving our current students opportunities to be involved in, the outreach process, like go into different school, telling whatever program we have, like maybe along the same time AI or STEM program, but to get active inside the schools.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, given early college, high school, and the nest for our newest Hornets, the new ECIC building, I think the goal is moving towards, having a full K-12 experience and then rolling right into DSU. So thinking there, spot on for sure. I know Amy put in the chat on her wish list is a lounge, a veteran lounge for our servicemen and women and military connected students. Yeah, that'd be great for sure. I did also just want to show the faculty research page. Francine beat me to it and dropped it in the chat. So thank you, Francine. I appreciate you. There was a faculty research day. If y'all didn't, attend, I strongly encourage you to do so. The faculty gave brief overviews, and there is some sessions about their current research, what they're working on. And for me, it was really great to see all of the current projects that our faculty are working on. There's also funding opportunities listed on this page, and you'll be able to learn more about Faculty Research Day. The next one is in May of 26. So, fingers crossed for you. Apply for a grant, get some funding, start research, and I hope to see you at Faculty Research Day. Any other questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up?
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry. I had the
No,
wrong
you're good.
I just wanted to just really emphasize, thank you so much, Dr. Archambault, for making sure to highlight and cover this. Really wanted to emphasize the opportunities available for collaboration, especially for certain things, because certain different departments, as an example, the library, we have access to several vendors that are always sending us information about possibilities of grants through the vendors that we already pay certain things to. So really putting it out there that it is important that to make sure to put it out there for collaboration, collaborate with another department on campus. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. So, Ms. Cortez, get with Ms. Murphy, see if there's any potential vendor grants that maybe could be useful in your pursuit of stuff for your areas. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. I appreciate you. Anything else before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you all so much for taking the time to spend with me this afternoon. I'm going to hang around for a few more minutes just in case anyone has a question or concern. I appreciate you. We've recorded this session, so I'll make sure the recording gets to all the participants in today's session, and you'll of course have access to the slides through the chat feature, but I'll also send them with the recording. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for everything you do for our students. And if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. I will make sure, that I connect you with the right supports. And I wish you much success and happy writing. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Dr. A, I'll